You speak about a law that's consistent. And in the physical world, in the engineering, scientific world, laws that work are also consistent.
Everything is. Everything is law-based. That's why it works.
However, the physical laws are reproducible and provable. Law of attraction by nature is not.
Oh, there's not a shred of evidence to the contrary of it anywhere. There's never been anything more proved or provable, ever.
Well,
Name one thing.
It's like no matter what you try to prove, law of attraction would yield that. See what I mean? So if somebody sets out to disprove that this stuff doesn't work, you know, if I'm happy it's not going to work, their vibration is going to impact their study.
Yeah, isn't that good? Isn't that good? They get what they expect. That's law of attraction.
Right. But it's a catch-22.
It's a win. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
I get that. I get that. It's
We're
what
just
I'm
torturing you. It's
There was a movie out about What the Bleep Do We Know, that they did a study on water, that the intention of the experimenter was studied on what happened with the water. Later on, and I believe that, I don't doubt that it can happen. However,
we don't doubt it either, we just don't think it did.
Well, that's what I'm about to say. When they scientifically went back and checked it, they couldn't find the consistent impact.
Everyone who looks for anything finds what they're looking for. That's why statistics are so amusing.
Okay.
Law of attraction says that which is vibrationally likened to itself will match up with, meet up with, join with that which is likened to itself. In other words, the law of attraction says that whatever it is that you are vibrationally offering is coming to you and will be reflected fully in your experience.
I agree. My desire was to somehow find an angle to talk about this without saying that it's coming through a channeled entity. And I haven't found one. That's what I'm asking if there's...
Well, you know why? This is a tricky part about this. There have been a lot of people that are trying to do that because they want to leave us out or Jerry and Esther out of it. And that's all right because none of us care whether we're left out of it or not. But the problem with leaving the non-physical out of it is that the way that you know where you are in relationship to what you want, in other words, the way you close that gap so that you are offering a signal that law of attraction will respond to, is by having conscious awareness of those two vibrational points. And if you leave the non-physical part out of it, if you don't acknowledge that you are source energy and that as contrast causes you to give birth, the source becomes that vibration, if you leave that part out, then that would be like Magellan in Jerry and Esther's vehicle. That would be like them getting in the vehicle and the satellites noting where they are and then having no mechanism to say where they want to go. So as they drive around, Magellan just says, well, now you're here, and now you're here, and now you're here, and now you're over there. But without the other point of relativity, there's no guidance, you see.
I agree with
so
that.
You can't leave the non-physical part of it out. But here's what you could do.
Okay.
You could leave the channeling out of it, call it inspiration, that's all it is. You don't call the basketball player a channeler, but he is. He is an extension of source energy. You don't call the surgeon a channeler, but he is. You don't call the musician, the magnificent master of musician, you don't call him a channeler, but he is. He's channeling the broader essence of who he is into the specifics of what he is about. So Jerry and Esther have never used the word channeling. It is used when it is applied to them, but they have never used it because it means many things of which they are not, you see.
So I guess I accept all that, and I'm here. This is my 5th meeting. I have all your books, etc. The thing
is, when you were a teacher, we wanted to give you words for your bridging. Yes.
Well, law, again, going back to the concept, the closest thing that I see science has come to is string theory, for example, because it talks about vibration, but they're having a hard time mathematically proving it. They need 11 dimensions. We only know 5, etc., etc., etc.
If they could accept law of attraction, they would be there tomorrow. Tomorrow. One scientist applying law of attraction to string theory, he would understand it tomorrow. Find one and tell him.
Okay.
We know it's hard to accept yourselves as vibrational, but it is easier to accept yourselves as emotional. And when you begin to affect your emotion by your thought, then that's a bridge to understanding vibration. So what you could begin to say to people is, you know, I have a sensing that I do have some sense of guidance. I've had gut instinct all my life. And I've noticed that often I'll have an impulse to do something, and when I followed it, it went well, and when I didn't, it didn't go so well. It was like some part of me knew something that the rest of me had to catch up with. So I started sort of paying attention and began to notice that the better I felt, the better things went for me. And the worse I felt, the worse things went for me. And so I've just decided that I'm going to feel good. You could leave everything else out of it. You could have a grandmother who just taught you to appreciate and taught you to feel good, and you could know nothing about law of attraction or Abraham or any of this stuff that we talk about, and you could live a magnificent life. A man sat in the chair today and said, I'm living such a wonderful life, I'm almost afraid to mess with this stuff for fear it might mess something up.
Right.
And we say there are all kinds of people who are living enormously well because there is no gap between what they want and what they expect, you see. But to be deliberate in the offering of that, and we know there are a lot of people who are not ready to hear about channeling, but there is no one who does not want to feel good. There's not one person on the planet who wants anything for any other reason that they believe that in the having of it they would feel better.
Agreed.
And if you can just get across to them that if they could feel better before they have it, then they will have it. That is the dominant message that we are offering. You can leave every other part of it out if you want to.
Well, the thing is, I do enjoy thinking about it. That's like trying to figure out, like, really, how does the emotion and matter interact that all this happens?
Well, it's interesting because it happens so gradually that you cannot see it. And that's the thing that is confounding. This buffer of time, here's the best way that we can describe this to you. More than 99% of every creation is completed vibrationally before you see any physical evidence of it. And the reason for that is your contrast causes you to launch it, and then source adheres to it and becomes one with it. And then things begin to move into place to bring it to what you would call manifestation or physical fruition. So when you feel enthusiasm, when you get to that place where you're feeling really passionate about something, and when you think about it, it thrills you to think about it, it doesn't beat you up to think about it, you're right on the brink of manifestation. So you could do your own personal scientific survey where you start watching a timeline between things you feel pessimistic about and things you feel optimistic about, and show yourself an absolute recordable ratio between how long it takes. Those things that you feel enthusiasm about happen fast, and those things that you feel pessimistic about don't happen ever until you improve the way you feel. And what you'll begin to notice is that if you're feeling discouragement about something, then it's a long way, so long that you could call it forever away. If you're feeling frustration about it, it's still not ready to manifest, but it could manifest quicker, but not until you close the gap. Nothing happens till you close the gap. So we don't care if you're in despair or in frustration or in even a feeling of slight hopefulness or pessimism. It's still not ready to manifest until you close the gap. So the question of time is, how long does it take me to move up this emotional scale? Because you got to close the gap before the manifestation is going to happen every single time. It's not going to manifest before you line up with it. It's not. It cannot. And that is traceable, trackable, definable, learnable, teachable, explainable. In other words, teach it to yourself, and then you'll find a million different ways that you can teach it to others.
Thank you.
We have enjoyed this interaction immensely.